Raynham Board of Selectmen on Tuesday, January 19th, 2020. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock and announce that pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and his order imposing strict limitations on the number of people who may gather in one place, this meeting of the Raynham Board of Selectmen is being conducted with the public body members, that is the members of the Board of Selectmen, in person at Veterans Memorial Town Hall at 558 South Main Street, and with the general public following the proceedings remotely. Every effort has been made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. Also, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded. In addition, also in accordance with the order, those in attendance and participating at that meeting include, in addition to the board, Vice Chairman Mr. Joseph Pacheco, Selectman Richard Chavo, our Town Administrator Graham Waters, and Recording Secretary Janet Murphy. And as I mentioned, the meeting is being recorded, and please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. I mentioned we are returning from executive session with nothing to report at this time. And our next agenda item is the acceptance of the minutes of the January 12th meeting of the Board of Selectmen. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by
Second.
Mr. Pacheco, second by Mr. Chavo. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. Department heads. With the attendees online, we have Matt Tanis, our health agent, with his monthly report. Matt, are you with us?
I am, ma'am.
Go right ahead, Matt. How are you doing?
Good evening, board. I'm just going to start just with a quick update regarding COVID. This weekend, Raynham actually went over 1,000 cases, total of confirmed COVID cases in Raynham. We now have 1,038 total cases since the middle of March. 128 of those are from long-term care facilities, and 910 not associated, just general Raynham population. Total number of deaths, 70, 61 being from long-term care facilities and 9 from Raynham. And as of today, I've had marked 758 cases as recovered. Just a note, still seeing a lot of family and household transmission, as we have been seeing since the fall, through the fall. But we're also still seeing considerable community transmission. The new variant of COVID has been identified in Massachusetts. With that variant, that there are currently no changes to any of the restrictions at this time, but just be aware that the new variant is here. Early data shows this variant is significantly more contagious, but seems to be somewhat less deadly. And also early research showing that the vaccine does offer some level of protection, but again, the data is pretty limited as it's a new variant, new strain. The office continues to work with businesses regarding COVID compliance and also assisting with any support with workplace exposures to COVID. I just urge anyone that has concerns regarding businesses being in violation of any COVID restrictions to please call the office so we can properly follow up and ensure compliance. With the vaccine, the COVID vaccine for first responders is well underway. Raynham is wrapping up vaccinating of our police and fire, and I would like to just thank both chiefs for greatly assisting in this effort. Massachusetts is currently, again, in phase 1 and within the first responder priority group. Our office has been getting numerous calls from people asking when they can get their vaccine. I understand it's extremely frustrating, but please know we are only allowed to vaccinate based on the current phase and priority group. As we get information from the Mass Department of Public Health regarding the next vaccination group or priority group, we'll definitely get that information out to those who would be eligible. So please just be patient, again, as we're restricted to what the state allows us to do. And we do have plans in place in order to get the vaccine administered, and that'll be with the assistance of the Raynham Fire Department. Myself and Chief Leciva have been in very good communication, and I think that we're definitely capable. We just need to wait to get to the phases and the groups and get the vaccine in hand. Just for a piece of information, Massachusetts currently does not have enough vaccines to even completely vaccinate everyone in phase 1. So again, I know it's frustrating, but we're only allowed to give out what we can, and right now we're still within that first responder group. I have updated our website with information regarding the vaccine. So anybody, that'll be updated as we move through the phases and groups. So that's one place you can definitely get the information as it comes up. Outside of COVID, a few weeks back, I had issued an order letter to the park owner of Shady Acres with some violations that have been outstanding, have continued for quite some time. The park owner did reach out, and I did do a follow-up with them. I met the owner out at the site, and he outlined his plan to address the violations that were noted. Will be a work in progress. With COVID in the winter months, some things will take some time, but we will stay in communication, and I will continue periodic inspections to ensure those violations are corrected as we move into the spring. There have been several days over the past few weeks that Earthsource has had some odor issues. I have requested that complaints be emailed to the DEP with us at the health department CC'd, mainly so that way I can keep a physical record and have a better idea of the total number of complaints, not just a phone call here or there, but those complaints can be compiled and now it's an actual record, location, time, everything else. So I've been getting quite a good number of emails. Everybody seems to be emailing certain times when there are odors, so that's good. I do have a record of those, and again, that'll be good to have should this wind up being escalated to a point of being deemed a public nuisance. These emails are directed to Mass DEP, and again, Mass DEP does hold the permit and ultimate regulatory authority for Earthsource. I do believe DEP is planning on an inspection of the site in the near future, but I don't have the date at this time. I believe the program director was out on vacation, so I'm not sure. I have not talked to him, but I've talked to his other staff, so I'm anticipating hopefully to be notified when they do go out, so I can accompany them there as well. I have conducted several inspections. I've noted odors on 2 of those occasions. Most recent last Wednesday, the odors were related to this discharge and possible problems with the chlorinating pumps. I did notify Mr. Kelly, and they ceased those discharge operations until they were able to correct the issues. The other time was they were working on the piles, and the wind direction was heading into the neighboring developments and neighborhoods, creating an issue. Again, we notified Mr. Kelly, and operations were ceased until the weather was more favorable. I have had an inquiry regarding a body art establishment in town. I talked to the respective establishment owner and have given them the regulations, and will be working with them. We're wrapping up the permitting. We have a few outstanding still, but at this point, anything turned in now will be assessed late fees. We did get a good return on them, so that was definitely good. And our senior clerk started last Monday and is settling in. She's definitely jumped right in and is being a great help to us. And just a thank you to our inspector Denise as well. She's been an outstanding asset with all of what we've had going on within the department. So if you have any questions.
Any questions, Mr. Pachuca?
Yes, I'm holding my mask because the thing just ripped off.
No.
Matt, I am happy to hear that you said that the public safety vaccination process is going smooth, because as of last week, I had heard from some of our folks that they hadn't received the vaccination yet. And so I know we had a partnership that you spoke about previously with Bridgewater and Brockton Hospital, but would our folks be eligible for the new public safety vaccination site at Gillette Stadium, or is it exclusive only to the Brockton agreement we have?
So any of the first responders are eligible to go to the site set up at Gillette. And just for future reference, that site is supposed to be basically set up through the remainder of the vaccination process through all the phases. but it'll only be eligible for that current priority group and previous priority groups. So at this point, we were able to get the vaccine from Bridgewater and Brockton Hospital just to expedite the process. We obtained the vaccine and administered it in-house instead of trying to wait for a clinic set up through Bridgewater. Certainly time is of essence. So we were able to obtain the vaccine and administer it in-house.
Okay, great. Thank you, Matt.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pacheco. Mr. Shavo.
Yes, just briefly, Matt, a quick question. You mentioned, for the benefit of the residents, you mentioned several times the phase one, or priority one, however you term it, and we understand that's first responders and healthcare. Who designated as phase two or priority two? I'd like to hear that for the benefit of the residents.
Sure. So I unfortunately have to pull it up on the computer. I do have everything outlined going forward with the priority groups on the website, but if you bear with me just one moment, I can pull it up and go through.
Matt, I think part of them are prisoners, correct?
Sorry, go ahead.
I think some of them are inmates and then seniors with underlying health conditions. Are those part of phase two?
So phase one is primarily anyone that would be front-facing with COVID, and then phase two would start anyone like the 65 and up with pre-existing health conditions, anyone, teachers within the school setting. Again, just give me one moment. I can try and pull up the actual info.
Are you still with us, Matt?
I am. I'm just pulling up the actual, that I can give you the definite answer, just because there's so many different phases and our priorities within the phases. It's coming up right now. So again, right now, phase one is primarily anyone that's going to be COVID facing, so first responders, nurses, doctors, healthcare workers, congregate care settings, so life care, all-American, group homes, that type of setting. Phase two, which is scheduled to start at some point in February and go through March, that's when we'd be getting into older adults 65 and up that would have at least one comorbid condition, and any other workers like the teachers in the school. And then once we get to phase three, then that's when it'd be open to the general population. So hopefully that answers a little bit better. Unfortunately, I can't pull it up on my phone here, and I'm on the computer, so hopefully that answers it, Mr. Chavo.
Yeah, I'm not 100% on it. Maybe if we have some more discussion on that at our next meeting, because I think there is a question, as Selectman Pacheco just mentioned, that there's some comment out there, and I wanted to clarify it for the benefit of our residents, that prisoners were going to get this at the next phase, and you haven't mentioned that, so maybe that's misinformation, but if that is important. The other thing is to delineate more specifically those people who are over whatever age, 70, regardless of whether they have some condition, just an age-related priority. So I don't think I'm 100% clear on where we are. Maybe we could, focus on that on next meeting, so our town residents will be more comfortable. But by then, maybe we'll know, you'll know more from the Commonwealth with regard to what's available too. So why don't we plan on that, if I might suggest
Sure.
it?
Okay. Thank you, Mr.
Sure.
Shavo.
I think part of the confusion has been that the CDC, what the CDC has put out for vaccination guidelines differs from what the state of Massachusetts is doing. We have to follow what the state of Massachusetts is doing. So, and yes, you are correct. Right now, prisons are considered to be able to be vaccinated as of yesterday. They would be considered more like a congregate care setting. I think that's why they would be included in this phase one. Again, we don't have any prisons in town, so, but once phase two opens up again, that'll probably be more like early to mid-February. That's when we can start focusing on seniors, those with comorbidities, and then moving forward with that. But I can get a better detailed time frame, and again, it is changing a bit as we go. But
okay, thank you.
So phase two, and again, it's a priority list. So start with phase two, but it would be priority one and move down list. So the first priority in phase two would be any individual age 75 with 2 or more comorbidities. Then the second priority is anyone in early education, staff, teachers, K through 12. And then the third priority would be adults 65 and up. And then we'd be moving on to phase 3. So I don't know if that helps at all, Mr. Chavo.
Yeah, that gets us closer to the thing. I guess the people that we're talking to are saying, if in fact phase 3 are the people that are, most susceptible, that is at the age level. We all know that 5-year-olds and 20-year-olds don't have the same, ill effects that the 65 or 75 or 80. I think what people are going to want to know for sure, because I know they call me and they call CVS and this and that, is when is phase 3? And again, I realize that changes, but the more we can tell the population about the dates, when does phase 3 start, with the current information, I think that would help a lot of people to get more familiar with what they have to do, time-wise in order to prepare for that. Do they stay secluded? Do they stay locked up until phase 3? And then when is phase 3, March 1st or whatever? That's what they got to plan. So we need to know more about that. But that, I'm sure you'll get that for us. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Unfortunately, the state is not giving us dates. They're just providing a general time frame for the rollout of the phases. And a big part of that, again, is because the state just does not have the actual vaccine in hand. So they're just not providing us with any specific dates, even for like the next priority groups within the phases. It's a rolling information. So, at this point, phase 2 is supposed to start in February, but we don't have an exact date. Certainly, as soon as we get an exact date, I'll be more than happy to blast the information out, as much as possible. Again, even with the first responder groups, initially, back in the end of December, the state had originally said January 4th would be the start of first responder vaccine. That ended up getting pushed to January 11th. So I think the state, they're just, because they don't have the actual vaccine in hand, it's really hard for them to give a specific date of when the next priority phase is going to start. But certainly as we get that information, I'll get it out. I know it's just the board, but also the community as best as possible.
Thank you, Matt. I was happy to hear that Johnson & Johnson is also doing very well with their vaccination efforts, and I believe their vaccination only requires 1 inoculation instead of the 2. So that will be great when that gets approved as well. One question for you on as far as Earth Source is concerned, Matt. I know we're doing everything we can as far as collecting the complaints and forwarding them on. Is there any thought being given by Earth Source about how to address these odors going forward? I happened to drive by there around the holidays, and I just feel for those people that live near there that have to deal with that. And it's one thing now, but when spring comes and the weather is warm and the windows are open, that's going to be a real issue again. Are they trying to address going forward some way to reduce those odors, if not eliminate them?
They are. Yep, so they are. So the DEP, going back, I believe, about 2 years ago, coming up on 2 years, had issued a notice of non-compliance to Earth Source regarding a big part of it was the excessive material that had been stockpiled. They have been working since then to remove that stockpiled material, and it was actually on both sides of 138, the dog track side, which you can see, and also another big portion was on the other side of 138 on Resina's property. The majority of the material on Resina's property has been removed. I did confirm that last week when I was up there, but they're still working on, of course, the dog track side. So once that stockpile material has finally all been removed, there should be a pretty significant decrease in the odors, especially on that 138 corridor and up right into Robinson, Karen's Way there, that general area. Unfortunately, the other odor issues that are related to the discharge, that has not been a huge issue lately. There was an issue last week. I just asked if they could just pay more attention to those chlorinated pumps, which neutralizes the odors. And there was some error with them last week. So it's a work in progress, and I'm just hoping that the DEP does conduct their inspection and evaluates where they're at, and can give hopefully a better time frame as to when the removal of the excess material will be complete. I think once that's done, there will be some relief.
Okay. Thank you, Matt. You keep on that. We appreciate it. And thank you for everything that you do. Okay. Thanks, Matt. Moving on. Next, we have no appointment. We have a public hearing on Christina's Path Street acceptance. And is there anybody, I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone from the public that wants to address it? Mr. Waters, do you know if anyone is going to speak to this? Okay, we do have correspondence from the planning board that held a hearing. And this says, this was at the planning board meeting. Mr. Iafredi informed that most of the work requested by Niche Engineering has been completed, although there are still a couple of minor issues, which he spoke to Mr. Buckley about. If the road is not ready for acceptance at the upcoming town meeting, it can be withdrawn from consideration at that time. A motion was then made by Mr. Fountain and seconded by Mr. Driscoll to recommend placing on the town meeting warrant the acceptance of Christina's Path as a town road, with the exception for minor issues to be addressed, and that was a unanimous vote. So I believe it is now up to us.
Motion to place on the warrant.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
Any discussion?
None.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. Thank you. Next, we have completion of old continuing business. We had listed on the agenda Raynham Public Safety Building Project. We got so much information last week that, and I know the committee was meeting again this afternoon. I didn't know if we wanted any further discussion, but I think at this point we can probably table that. I know there has been concern that the committee would like to be able to speak with the board. We did hear from the project manager, which was great. I think we want to hear from some of the members as well, because we have assembled a really excellent committee that's working on that. So we'll hold on that for now. I don't think we need to take a vote. Next, we have a service contract with MX Consulting Services Incorporated. Mr. Waters?
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time, I'm still continuing to work with the town council on hammering out some of the details of the language in the agreement. So if I could ask the Board of Selectmen to table this item until such time I can bring it forward for consideration and vote by the board.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Second.
Any discussion?
None.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. Next, we have human resource job description. I believe at this point we have the revised human resource job description to act on. Mr. Waters, anything you want to add?
Sure. You have the copy of the advertisement as well as the job description in your packets. The HR consultant did review the advertisement and made some minor changes over the weekend, which I incorporated in this copy. I've also incorporated comments that Selectman Pacheco made regarding the degree. I've taken out the bachelor's degree requirement. I've just inserted generic language of a degree in human resource administration, public administration, business management, or related field, and it's not required, it's just preferred. I did insert language about having SHRM or IPMA HR or similar HR certification is required.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Waters. Just for the benefit of the public is what are we doing with an HR person? In your description, the purpose of the position is to perform highly responsible administrative and professional work of a complex and confidential nature, supporting all HR functions, including compliance with state, federal, and local personnel laws and regulations, recruitment, benefit administration, training, employee relations, and labor relations. Under the general direction of the town administrator, the HR coordinator exercises independent judgment and initiative to plan, supervise, direct, and lead all HR functions for the town. Any discussion?
Yeah, just one. Mr. Waters, were you able to get any update on the budget?
Yes, I'm going to have both Town Accountant Laviolette and Treasurer Collector on next week's agenda to present an update. Treasurer Collector King did send me some information today. We are at, as of the end of November 30th, I believe I've reported this to the board already, our real estate tax revenue is coming in at 97%, and our personal property tax revenue has been coming in at 94% versus last year, which was 96 and 95% respectively. We are hurting on our hotel taxes and our meals taxes. I believe we have not received any updates from the state on those numbers yet, but again, Treasurer Collector King can be here next week to talk about them. I'll make sure it's an item on the agenda.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Pacheco?
No, I mean, I recognize the desire of the board to move forward with this. I'm just personally not comfortable creating a new position right now, even though town meeting voted to fund it until I have a budget. But I appreciate the board incorporating in the changes I had suggested last week to the job description.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chalvo?
None. I think we're good to go according to our motion last week, and I think this covers all of the input that we had provided to the town administrator, so
I think all we need is a motion to approve the job description. Would you like to make that motion?
Absolutely.
Okay, second.
I'll second it for courtesy.
Okay. Any discussion?
None.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I vote no.
Okay, it passes on a 2-to-1 vote.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I do want to bring up, while we're on the topic of the HR position, once this position is filled, we'll need an office space for this individual. Right now, my thinking is the IT room that's downstairs on the first floor as an office space. It does have a lot of other departments' files, equipment, etc. in there, which I can contact them to remove. The other item regarding that space is it shares a wall with the health agent, and you can hear conversations in one office, and when you're standing in the other office, you can hear conversations in the other room. So it's not too confidential, but so things to consider. May have to think about that as we go forward.
Maybe ask our building commissioner for some input.
Madam Chair, they make sound machines for about $20 that cut out noise. We use them at my office, and they're very effective.
Excellent, very
Okay.
good. Mr. Chalvo?
Just one more thing. Now that we're going forward with the ad for the human resources person, have we done any thinking about the search committee? Where does that stand?
That's an excellent point. I would assume this would be considered a department head level position, and search committee needs to be appointed.
Yeah.
So contact our town moderator to set up that search committee.
Sure, it's a
Excellent.
pleasure of the board.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, next we have new business discussion and action, Mass DOT Route 138 right-of-way takings. Mr. Waters, what can you tell us about this?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This item has been sort of pending in the background for a little while. The board had an opportunity to discuss it at one of their meetings, and I believe it was briefly discussed back in October. It was tabled. There's some legal research that has taken place. I have included memos from attorney Arthur Cote, who's done some ownership of parcels. So this project for the public and for the board involves 138 and public takings that need to take place for easements. There's two properties that MassDOT has identified. One is a cemetery, the other one is known as Gilmore Hall. No ownership can be found for those two properties. That's where Attorney Cote came in to do some research. So what the board needs to do tonight is to review this information and act on a vote to approve the MassDOT takings. And on the line I have Derek Roma from MassDOT, and he can probably do a much better job than what I'm doing right now explaining the project, MassDOT's need for the public takings, and what action the board needs to take.
Okay, that's Mr. Roma?
Yes.
Are you with us, Mr. Roma?
I am. Can you hear me?
We can hear you fine. Please go forward.
So, I guess a point of clarification. There are four, and I'm not sure what the latest findings, Graham, are from Mr. Cote regarding those two parcels, but there are four other town-owned parcels where easements and acquisitions are required. And so, Graham, I guess I'm going to ask for maybe a bit of clarification. What's the ask tonight? Is it regarding those two parcels and Arthur Cote's findings, or with respect to the other four parcels?
Sure. So Arthur Cote sent me a memo, which I forwarded to the board today, saying that regarding Shaw Cemetery and Gilmore Hall, there is no record title to date for their search. And that no conclusion can be made about conveyance or transfer of the cemetery. However, there's nothing that says otherwise, that the town is not of ownership. So those are that's what the findings of the attorney, Arthur, found. And then the other parcels are also before the board.
Mr. Roma, may I ask,
Okay.
how much?
So with respect to, yep.
How much property are you actually taking?
So there's four. One second, let me get my.
It's Madam Chair, it's on this packet here.
Mm-hmm. I'd just like him to explain it. Thank you.
So there's various interests that are being acquired from the four parcels that are confirmed owned by the town of Raynham. There are easements and fee takings that are proposed. So the only there are two fee takings, one being 156 square feet in fee, and another is 1,965 square feet in fee. And then there are 7 permanent easements for drainage, public utilities, guardrail placement. So these are permanent easements for highway purposes and for utility purposes primarily.
Okay.
And those range from 27 square feet to 1,300 square feet. For another permanent utility easement, which is a strip up from one of the properties down by next to the post office, town-owned property there. So it's to place the utility poles and the overhead wires along the frontage, where we're moving utility poles either from the front of the sidewalk to the back, or there may not be sidewalks in that location. So we're moving sidewalks and then placing the utility poles on the back of the sidewalk.
Sure, and this is all part of the Route 138 reconstruction project. Any
Correct.
questions, Mr.
No,
Pacheco?
Madam Chair, motion to approve.
Mr. Shavo?
Second.
Any further discussion?
None.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. Thank you, Mr. Roma.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Derek.
Okay, next we have Town Administrator's Report. Mr. Waters.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a brief report this evening. Ongoing information on the town accountant search. The search committee has selected 3 applicants to interview over the next 2 weeks. One will be this coming Thursday and the following Wednesday, I believe. The committee hopes to have a recommendation to the board at the first or second meeting in February. And just a big kudos to Bill Lewis and the search committee for all their efforts and assistance. I know Selectman Shivo commented on how well Bill is doing communicating with the board. He's been an excellent search committee chair, and the search committee has been excellent committee overall, providing valuable feedback and input. So, and then upcoming next regularly scheduled Selectmen's meeting will be on Tuesday, January 26th, right here in the Don McKinnon Meeting Room, 7 p.m. Town Hall, 558 South Main Street, Raynham, Massachusetts. The public will be able to participate via the GoToMeeting platform or by watching the Raynham Channel on Verizon, Comcast, or a recording posted later on YouTube. And that is all I have, Madam Chair, unless there's questions or comments by the board.
Thank you, Mr. Waters. Any questions?
None, Madam
Mr.
Chair.
Pacheco, Mr.
None.
Shavo. Next, we have Selectmen's report. Mr. Pacheco.
I have nothing, Madam Chair. I was requesting to talk about the budget, but we tackled that under the HR, so that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Shavo.
None, Madam Chair.
I have nothing at this time. Okay, we have then correspondence. We did get under correspondence, we've got a request here for some tag days for Raynham nonprofits. Girl Scouts, Cub Scout Pack 43, Raynham Raynham Lions Club, Raynham Giants Football, Knights of Columbus, Raynham Youth Lacrosse, Raynham Youth Baseball League Association. Also, Cub Scout Pack 87 is out of town, and Troop 22 out of town, and they have all of the dates here. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve the slate.
Okay.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So the slate is approved as presented, Mr. Waters. Next, we have a press time. Anyone from the press wishing to address us at this time? Yeah, I'll be really shocked if somebody spoke up. Emergency business. Mr. Pacheco?
None, Madam Chair.
Mr. Shavo?
None, Madam
I
Chair.
have none. Citizen and community input. Does anyone out there in remote land wish to address us at this time? If so, please state your name and address for the minutes.
Mike is shaking his head no.
Okay, we are good. Performance of administrative duties. A motion to approve the Town of Raynham invoice and payroll warrants dated Tuesday, January 19th.
So moved.
Motion by
Second.
Mr. Pacheco, seconded by Mr. Shavo. Any discussion?
None.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. Approval of Raynham Police invoice and payroll warrants.
So moved.
Motion by
Second.
Mr. Shavo. I second that, and Mr. Pacheco abstains, and that is the vote. So it passes 2 in favor, 1 abstention. Mr. Pacheco, your motion.
Yep, motion to adjourn, sign the bills, no business thereafter.
Motion to adjourn at 7:40 p.m. Do you second that, Mr. Shavo?
I do. Second.
And I go along with that. It is unanimous vote. We are adjourned. Thank you all for joining us. Have a safe and healthy week, and we'll see you next week.